and was getting ready to walk into like a McDonald's or something like that. And this young gentleman was approaching me. And so I could tell he wanted to get my attention. So as we got a little closer, just because of maybe how he looked, I kind of stopped him and said, hey, like, what do you need? And he was very humble and, wouldn't even really look me in the eye. And he just kind of looked down and he said, I really could use a hand getting something to eat. And so, again, we were just raised that way, that if someone asked you for food, you would help them, And so I said, oh, sure, let's go to McDonald's. And so we go into McDonald's. I'm offering him anything he wants. And he's basically like, I'll just take a hamburger and a small coffee. So I'm like, that's it? You don't want a Big Mac, fries, apple pie? I'm offering him all of these things. And he's like, no, this is perfect. And so he was very gracious, and we're walking out, and for whatever reason, I had like $20 on me. It was like the days of the debit card just came out, but you still carry cash days. And so it was just on my heart. He was walking away, and I said, excuse me. And I asked him to come back, and I gave him the 20. And I'm like, here, hopefully this helps you. And he immediately started bawling, just boo-hoo crying. And I'm about to cry because I'm like, he's just like, sir, I'm not on drugs. He basically was saying that he came out here with his girlfriend. They broke up, so then he had to move out. She took the car, but he lost his job. And it was just a domino effect that happened in his life. And so in that moment, it just made me realize, like, maybe I'm a little bit more fortunate because maybe I have a little bit better of a support system, but basically we can all be in that position.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor,
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be in the world. I'm Randy McNeely, known as the kindness giver, and I am thrilled to be here with my wonderful co-host, Dr. Elia Gourgouris, the happiness doctor. And we are totally honored today to have an amazing man in our midst, the wonderful and the amazing Brian Coleman. And I say the amazing Brian Coleman, he is the founder of a wonderful organization called A Heart to Help. And I'm going to let him tell you about that, but let me just tell you a little bit about him. Brian began his career in the Air Force. He was stationed at Keesler Air Base in Biloxi, Mississippi, and he was there to hone his skills as a surgical technician. He's been a physician for over 30 years. He's traveled across the United States as a surgical technician, serving patients at some of the top medical centers in the world. Brian has got a wonderful entrepreneurial spirit, and he's ventured into a whole bunch of different paths, including owning a healthcare staffing agency. He's also been the inventor of a tool called the ClipVac, which is a revolutionary pre-surgical hair removal system that has transformed pre-surgical procedures in hospitals throughout the country, nationwide. He loves his family, and I could talk about a lot more. He's a dedicated churchgoer. He's a very spiritual guy. I'm going to let Brian take away the rest. Brian, go ahead, and if there's anything that I missed, feel free to share a little bit with us about yourself.
No, well, thank you for having me. Just looking forward to being a part of this kindness factor. I love what you're doing, Randy, and thanks for having me on the show. Basically, you hit it all. I started off in the Air Force. I currently still work as a surgical tech, and basically that is an assistant in the operating room where I'm kind of like the surgeon's extra pair of hands in a sense. So my job in the operating room is to facilitate the instruments and be a part of a patient's care at that time. And so I've done all types of specialties, from open heart surgery to all the way down to orthopedic surgery. And I've been fortunate to have worked in some of the top hospitals in the country, if not the world. And so for me, that's kind of where it all started, as far as just really just being humbled about being a part of a patient's care. So, yeah, appreciate it.
Brian, first of all, thank you for being on the show, and more importantly, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
We honor veterans, and we honor those that serve our country. You're the best of the best. So, and you have 7 children, is that correct?
Yes, I do. Blended family, 4 from previous marriage, and 3 currently. And so, yeah, a total of 7. We all get along. Everything is great. And yeah, I love it.
Well, congratulations. Brian, has there been a transformative experience in your life as it relates to kindness that has really perhaps even changed the course of your life that you'd like to share with the audience?
Definitely, definitely. You know, just with this whole kindness movement and helping movement, you know, I've thought back of what really sort of steered me in this direction. And you know, the one thing that I would say really sort of changed the course of my life was actually my mom was probably the first you know, experience that I had where I sort of saw like the kindness in that sense. And the quick story is basically I was young. I was probably about 12 at the time and didn't have a care in the world. And my mother and father were divorced. And so, you know, my mother was just doing her best as far as raising me and my 2 other siblings. And again, we just didn't really have a care. And I just remember this one specific time where was downstairs watching TV, kind of heard a sound and didn't really know what to make of it. And so we turned the TV down and I snuck upstairs and basically I saw my mother on her bed with a bunch of bills around her crying. And you know, it opened up my eyes in a way that yes, that's my mom, and yes, you know, she's our provider, but it sort of took it a step further where I really started to understand what it was like for people to give, knowing that they weren't going to really get anything in return. And so to me, that was like the ultimate sort of moment, the ultimate sacrifice. And it changed my life in a direction where I not only wanted to help her, but I wanted to help others as well. And so I would say that was probably my first eye-opening experience that really sort of changed who I am to this day. And even when I think about it, it still causes me to sort of get choked up about it. So
It's beautiful and it's heartwarming. And you know, being a parent sometimes is you don't get a lot of rewards sometimes, you know,
exactly,
it's happening.
exactly.
But when you said with no, you know, she made all these with no returns, when I look at you, Brian, she got a lot in return.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
By the way you've lived your life and the man that you are, and the husband and father and friend and innovator, and you know, your service-oriented spirit. I hope that she's proud wherever your mom is. I hope that she's proud.
Oh, she's yeah, and you know, I've always tried to take moments to let her know, you know, in a sense. And again, like you said, as parents, we're so sort of used to that. But I think that as parents also, that it's our job to sort of instill that into our children, to just know that there's just a bigger world that exists outside of our own, and to try to help as many people as you can, not just in your household, but just outside of that. And so that definitely was a moment that steered me in a direction that I just never will forget. And I mean, I've had so many other you know, experiences that I can really, you know, that I could share that would, you know, show that spirit of being affected by kindness, whether it was something that I was able to help someone with or receiving. But that definitely is something that is so clear in my head that it's just, I know that was the moment for sure.
Brian, I want to clarify a couple things, you know, just make sure I understand why that moment was so impactful for you. First of all, you saw your mother, or you heard your mother crying, you saw her on the bed with all those bills around her. And it was that, if I'm understanding you correctly, it was in that moment that you realized, you know, my mom is making this huge sacrifice for us. She's giving her all. She's doing all these things. And she's got a plate that's loaded as this, you know, as high as the ceiling. You know, you didn't use those words, but that's kind of what came into your mind and into your heart. You realize how much she was doing to try to take care of you and your siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? Did I get that right? Did I capture that?
1,000%, 1,000%.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the reason that that resonates with me Because I remember when my mom and dad got divorced, and I remember my mother being in the same similar situation, you know, where she went back to school so that she could, you know, she never graduated from the university, so she went back to school. She applied for a couple of scholarships, was able to get scholarships, went back to school to take care and to be able to get a better job. And then she did all these odd jobs just to bring in cash so that we would have enough to make ends meet with me and my younger sister. And you know, I look back at that now. I'm thinking about how much she sacrificed, the tremendous kindness that she showed. And yeah, I can totally see why that was so impactful for you, Brian. And so appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate the platform to be able to share it. I think that it's good to be able to give our parents those kudos in a sense, because that's what really shapes who we are, you know. And so I wanted to be, you know, better in a sense. And what it really did was it really raised my awareness in a sense to a level that to this day, you know, my wife will sort of, you know, not make fun, but she sort of knows like I have a very heightened sort of awareness of the people around me in a sense. And so, you know, even with, you know, the new venture of A Heart to Help, you know, I definitely feel like, you know, God put me in this place to be able to just use, you know, the gift that I have, which is wanting to just help people and just sort of create a way that we can all help each other. You know, we all have gifts, you know, and at the end of the day, it's just about sharing those gifts with the world. A lot of times you know, we want to keep it to ourselves, or we want to just keep it to our initial sort of, you know, family and friends in our circle. But really, these gifts that we have are meant to just be shared with the world. And so my goal is to, you know, create that platform that will allow, you know, those gifts to be shared.
Move on. It's interesting that, you know, for the first 12 years of your life, from what you shared with us, your mom really shielded you from the reality that she was facing on a daily basis, day in and day out. And she kind of protected
Yes.
you, right? And if
Yes.
she hadn't heard her crying and gone upstairs and like that,
Mm,
I still wouldn't have known really the full impact. So that to me shows, you know, because she is heavily burdened before you found her at the age of 12, right? But
exactly.
she protected you and your siblings. And I think that's beautiful for her, honestly, right?
Yeah.
So just kudos to your mom for that alone. Anyway, we can,
Thank you.
I just thought that was really interesting that for 12, like you said, for 12 years, everything was good. You know, things were
Yes.
right.
So, you know, that you've mentioned that experience continues to impact you. How did that experience with your mom? And you said you're kind of what did your wife say? You're hypersensitive to
Yeah.
the way people feel around you.
Yes.
How does that
Yes.
experience continue to drive what you're doing today? Tell us a little about what you're doing and you know what how you've been inspired to pay it forward because of that experience.
Yes. I mean, you know, definitely that situation was one. If I could just share another quick one that
Sure.
probably put me on a different course was still living in Cleveland at the time, and it got off work. It was a long shift, and I was just headed to go get something to eat, and was getting ready to walk into like a McDonald's or something like that. And this young gentleman was approaching me. And so I could tell he wanted to get my attention. So as we got a little closer, you know, just because of maybe how he looked, I kind of stopped him and said, "Hey, like, you know, what do you need?" And he was very humble and, you know, wouldn't even really look me in the eye. And he just kind of looked down and he said, "You know, I really could use a hand getting something to eat." And so, again, we were just raised that way that if someone asked you to for food, you would help them, you know. And so I said, "Oh, sure, let's go to McDonald's." And so we go into McDonald's. I'm offering him anything he wants. And he's basically like, "I'll just take a hamburger and a small coffee." So I'm like, "That's it? You don't want a Big Mac, fries, apple pie?" I'm offering him all of these things, and he's like, "No, this is perfect." And so he was very gracious, and we're walking out, and for whatever reason, I had like $20 on me. It was like the days of the debit card just came out, but you still carry cash days. And so well, it was just on my heart. He was walking away, and I said, "Excuse me," and I asked him to come back, and I gave him the 20, and I'm like, "Here, hopefully this helps you." And he immediately started bawling, just boohoo crying, and I'm about to cry because I'm like, "What is?" And he's just like, "You know, sir, I'm not on drugs. He basically was saying that he came out here with his girlfriend. They broke up, so then he had to move out. She took the car. He lost his job, and it was just a domino effect that happened in his life. And so in that moment, it just made me realize like maybe I'm a little bit more fortunate because maybe I have a little bit better of a support system, but basically we can all be in that position and have a domino effect happen in our lives. And unfortunately, it's just we look at each other like it's a negative thing when we can all just use a helping hand. And so whether that can be what, you know, you talk to someone or you meet with someone, you go on a walk or whatever it may be, then I just feel like that it's those type of instances that sort of help push society a little forward. And so that was probably an experience that really sort of started that train of just wanting to help people and always willing to sort of help people. And that was, you know, maybe 20 something plus years ago. And so I've always kind of been on that track of if I saw someone hungry, I would help them, or even if they needed a couple dollars, I would help them. Because I felt like that even if they used it for alcohol or whatever they may use it for, then maybe that's stopping that person from breaking into someone's car, someone's house, maybe knocking a little old lady over in the head to get the money. And maybe that's just going to help them get through the night. So who am I really to judge? You know, help is help. And I just felt like that we should be willing to help without attaching it to anything.
You are so right, Brian. It actually reminds me, and if I may share this with you and Randy, this last Christmas, we live in Denver. You know, and my wife always has like dollar bills, like stacks of them in the cars, just so when we stop at an exit or you know getting on the freeway, there's usually somebody who's homeless with a sign and so on. And I mean, she's really taught me a lot about kindness. Anyway, I approached this intersection. I was going to make a left, and I'm the first car there. And the guy that's standing there, I mean, and that's on me. His demeanor and his energy was just seemed just very angry and intense. It wasn't like the kind of like where normally I would roll down the window and you know, and my car passed him a little bit. But listen to this. So I'm like, you know, and I had a $5 or $10 bill. I didn't have any ones at the time. I'm like, you know what? It's okay. I'll just give it to the next stop. I see there'll be somebody else who's homeless. I'll give it to them. And I kid you not, you guys, both of you, the Spirit of God witness is my witness, said to me, roll down your window and give that money to this man who I really felt uncomfortable. It just his energy wasn't, you know, I didn't not safe. But you know,
Right.
when the Spirit talks to you, what are you gonna do? I can't argue with that. So I
Exactly.
rolled down the window and he was behind me. So I called him. I said, "Sir," and he turned around and he was still, and I handed, and you know what happened? Like in an instant, I don't want to cry either now. He got so soft. He looked me straight in the eyes and he said, "God bless you. I needed this so badly today." And I'm driving, so the light turns green, of course. The light turns green, and I leave, and I'm like, man, thank goodness for the Spirit, because the natural man in me, like, well, this isn't I'm going to give it to somebody, not him though, because
Right,
I have
right.
made a judgment call on my own, and yet, just like you said, Brian, we don't know, and it's not our place to judge anybody. And I mean, I got choked up, and I was crying as I'm
Of
driving, like
course.
because this is pretty recent. It happened a few months ago, and I'm like, Eli, you did the right thing. It's not your place to judge anybody. It doesn't matter what they look like on the outside, because his sincerity, you guys, was like it pierced my soul. I don't know how to describe it.
I can understand. You don't need to try to describe it. We yeah, we can feel that. It's beautiful. I
Right,
can't help but
right.
think, you know, one of our previous guests, a gentleman named Brad Aronson, wrote the book called Humankind, you know, changing the world one small act at a time. And in that book, he shares a story of a guy named Larry Stewart, who was, you know, he is the company he was working for went out of business, and his boss, you know, they owed him three paychecks, and they didn't pay him, and so he was living in his car and
Mm.
using his clothes as blankets and other stuff like that, and he hadn't eaten anything for like 3 days or something like that, and he finally went to this diner, and he had no idea how he was going to pay for any food, but he ordered a big meal and ate it. And then when he got done and it was time to pay, he got down on the ground and pretended like he was looking for money. And the owner, who was also the bartender or the guy behind the till, saw him, and he came out. And in order to help him save his dignity, he says, "Oh," he pulled out a 20 out of his wallet. He said, "Oh, you must have dropped this, sir," and gave him the $20 bill. And Larry Stewart, because of that one experience, started the Secret Santa. And we've all heard of the Secret Santa.
Wow.
And that's gone all over the world.
Wow.
And he ended up, by the time he passed away, he had given away he promised himself, because of that experience, that he was going to go out and when he got back on his feet, he was going to help other people. And so he ended up giving away over $1.4 million of his own money.
Wow.
Over time. And Secret Santa, that still goes on, we hear about it all over the world. The Secret Santa Foundation, all this stuff was all started by him, because that one guy gave him $20.
Wow.
No act too small.
There's
No act.
And you never know. You have no idea what the ripple effects of your kind actions might be.
Exactly.
I've shared it before, and I'll share it again. 40 years ago, a friend of mine touched my heart. She told me she thought I was neat at a time in my life when I needed to hear it. And I mean, I don't need to go into the full story here, but I still to this day remember how her kind words penetrated my heart. And that was simple action, and it affected me for 45 years. Think about the ripples. The ripples are still going out. The ripples, I can guarantee you that young man that you shared about has not forgotten. And I can guarantee the man that Elia shared with has not forgotten, nor will he forget anytime soon.
But it's also the impact that it had on you, Brian, on me, and you, Randy. With kindness, everybody wins, the giver and the receiver. That's the beautiful thing about the kindness.
Well,
exactly.
That's exactly right. And why is that? Why does that impact us so much? In reality, and I love to bring this up, kindness, what is it? It's love in action.
Exactly.
Love. You're giving away love. You delivered love to that young man. Elia delivered love to that man that he gave the money to. We've been feeling the love as we've been talking about it here.
Exactly. And for me, I've always felt like love is an action word, in a sense. I mean, obviously, we could tell people that we love them and this and that, and that's great. But I've always been the type of person that feels like you have to show love too. You have to show a person
what you do,
that you care. Exactly. And so for me, like you said, it's not necessarily just these big acts. It could be the smallest thing. And like I said, I've been on the other end of that as well. And it's super humbling, to know that a stranger cares, or a stranger just took a second to help you. It really changes you in a way that that it's hard not to want to pay it forward. And again, with the heart to help, I'm hoping that we're able to build something that it will give people a platform to be able to pay it forward, and just be able to be there for each other again, the way we sort of used to be. Now I kind of feel like everyone's a little closed off and in their circles, and I'm fine, so I don't have time to worry about everyone else. And there are people out here that are truly, truly, struggling, and it breaks my heart, for that.
Can you tell us in the audience, what is a heart to help? Like when you say pay it forward, tell us a little bit about your organization. What is that?
Sure. If I can just tell the quick backstory of it, it was Christmas Day in 2022. I got remarried, life was great, wife, kids, everything was clicking on all cylinders, in a sense. Nothing really crazy, but just feeling like all of your needs are truly met. And so I wanted to go out and volunteer around the holidays. And so then when I started looking into some of the traditional food banks and toy drives, a lot of them were filled up, because now with the internet and social media, like, you sign up for these events, and sometimes for volunteering, they have a requirement. You have to work, this time or that time. And with my work schedule, I just didn't really have the flexibility to be able to do that. And around the holidays, everything was filled up, which was a great problem to have because that means that there are a lot of people out there that was helping. And so Christmas Day, we're getting ready to go to my brother-in-law's house, and I just couldn't. I just had this heaviness on my heart. Like I just wanted to do something for somebody, a family, and so I started to think like, okay, well, if all of the toy drives and all of the food banks and all of the homeless shelters, everyone's getting fed, what about maybe my neighbor that I don't know, that's maybe 3 houses down, elderly, gentleman that maybe could just use a meal, or maybe there's a family that didn't make it to the toy drive, and maybe their kids don't have any toys, or so with so many different scenarios that sort of popped in my head at that moment. And so I just thought like, well, how come there's just not an app for something like that where a person can post a need, people around you see the need, and then people would be able to offer help. And so that was the day that I
That's a
thought
great
about.
idea, Brian. Wow, that's
Yeah.
a great idea. And that's like 365 days a year. It doesn't have to be just Christmas.
300, and you can do it when you get off. So then I started to think like, okay, when I get off work, I work in LA, I live in Santa Clarita, California. I could turn the app on and maybe see who needs help around me on my way home. Maybe stop and help someone on the side of the road that has a flat tire that doesn't have AAA and has never changed the tire. Maybe go drop off a warm meal to a local family in need. And the list just goes on and on and on. Or on my off day, I can go pick up a prescription for an elderly person, or maybe do a light repair. And so it started to, go from that point. And then I started to realize that sometimes we can all, use a helping hand. It could be someone that just needed a listening ear, someone that needed a mentor, or just some emotional support, someone that's trying to lose weight and they're wondering like, I don't know where to start. I can't afford to go to a gym. I don't know, where to start. So then there could be someone that's like, hey, you know what? I'm pretty fit. I can kind of help you with your diet. I can go on a walk with you, because I started to realize like the people like us, in a sense, there are millions, billions of people that way. And so they have sort of this willing spirit to help. But how do we connect those people with the people who sort of could use a helping hand? And so that's where it's going. And so right now, like the following that I've sort of started with social media really sort of took off on LinkedIn. And it opened up my eyes because I started getting messages from people around the world that really needed help. And it really like tears at me because it's bigger than I thought it was, in a sense. And so um, it's just something that's truly needed. And I just thank God that he placed this on my heart, and I'm gonna take it as far as I can take it.
Brian, I'm going to download your app as soon as this podcast is over. How do we do that? No, I'm serious. No, I'm not kidding. I'm serious. How do we do that? That is just a fantastic idea.
Yeah, it's currently on Apple right now, and we're waiting. It's in review for the Google Play Store, and hopefully that will be at the end of the week. We'll get it'll be in both stores in a sense, and everyone will start to download it. I think the challenging part was just getting the word out. For me, I see
We'll
so
help
many
you get the
things.
word
Well,
out.
we're going to get the word out. This is a great idea.
I have my kindness partners right here, my partners in kindness crime.
You know who he's making me think of, Elia? Do you remember we interviewed the interview that we didn't get to air with Don Diffang from last year? And I've reached out to Don again because he's doing the similar type thing over in the UK called the Do Me a Favor Buddy.
Yes, it's very similar to that. Yeah.
Very similar.
My ADD side is like I was looking at my phone to download the app now live without
Wow.
before the
Amazing.
podcast is over.
Thank
Hard
you.
to help. But I'm going to stay focused on the YouTube gentleman. But I'm telling you, as soon as we're done, I'm downloading this app. Hard to help. That's
Yeah,
such a great
so
I'm
much.
gonna have to wait till the Google Play Store because I don't have an Apple, so I'm gonna have to wait.
Oh, see, I knew I liked you for some reason. I'm Android all day.
You can be the first one, Randy. As soon as
Exactly.
I'll be. You let me know as soon as it's there. I'm on it,
I
man.
definitely will.
Well, Brian, what are three little nuggets of advice that you could give to our audience with regards to kindness? What would you like to share with our audience? Three little nuggets.
Yeah, I would say kindness starts at home, and so whether that's parents with kids, kids with parents, the way that we, treat our wives and spouses, things like that. So I believe that it starts at home. And so, and with that, I feel like that, kindness is free. Kindness is just one of these things that it doesn't hurt anything to be kind, and you just never really know what someone else is really going through. And so just those kind words, that kind gesture of opening up a door for someone, whatever it may be, is, it can just really change a person's day. And I just think that probably the last thing is just being aware of just the rest of the world that's around you. It's like what you said about, the gentleman on the side of the road, like just stopping and just seeing him, whereas I believe some unfortunately just have blinders on and they don't want to see, because they know when they open up their eyes, they're going to be changed when they see, the people that are in need. And so I would just say, the last is just to be aware and just to step in whenever you can, to try to make that difference.
Those are beautiful pearls of wisdom, Brian. Thank you so much. How can our
Thank
audience
you.
get in touch with you and connect with you and download your app? That's the main thing, Heart to Help.
Definitely
Nobody's
Heart
going to
to
beat
Help
me
is
to it, though. I'm doing it as soon as recording it. I'm doing it. So you're saying that this
definitely
works here in Denver too, right? It works anywhere.
of course,
It
of
works
course.
anywhere.
My goal is to create a world where help is just, a tap away. And I just feel like at the end of the day, it's a free app, from user to user. So it doesn't cost anyone to be able to get help or to give help, because we just want to keep that free. And so, at the end of the day, we just want, what I would love is for people sort of to help me help other people. And that's just by downloading the app. The Google side of it will be available in about a week, and the Apple Store is available right now. So I would just say go download the app. You can reach me at bcoleman@ahearttohelp.com. And basically, I'm on social media, but my biggest social media is probably LinkedIn right now. You can find me on LinkedIn under A Heart to Help as well. And again, my goal is to join forces with as many people as I can, and just continue to spread kindness throughout the world, and just bring that closeness, and just connect us the way that I know that we can be as a society.
Well, you got two fans right now, and the collaboration is just beginning, Brian. This isn't a one-off. Let's just do a podcast and have you on the air, which is a wonderful story that you tell. But there's
Thank
so
you.
much synergy, and there's so many
I
opportunities
agree.
to collaborate. So whatever we can do to showcase you and your beautiful app and the goodness that you bring to this world, like really, it's an honor. I mean, I had
Oh
no
my gosh,
idea. Like the only thing I know is like Randy said, you got to meet this guy, Brian. You just wait, and that's it. And I didn't know anything until just now. So for me, I'm like
wow.
the audience. This is the first time I'm hearing this, and so I'm so in awe of what you created. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you guys for having me, and whatever I can do to support you, please don't hesitate. Let me know. I definitely want to keep in, like, Randy, that's my new buddy right now. So like I said, every time I pick up the phone or every time I get a message, I instantly smile. So I
He's
don't
the
know
great
what effect he
connector.
has.
Randy is the great connector. He's connected
Exactly.
to more good people like you, Brian, than I can possibly count. He truly is the great connector. And that by
Yes.
itself is an act of kindness, actually. When you bring people
And that's
together who are,
exactly what it is.
um,
Yes.
like-minded and heart-centered, that's a win-win-win.
Oh yeah. And I mean, he reached out and he made these, wonderful connections with me. And that's, again, that's a form of A Heart to Help, was that he, saw like, okay, this guy is out here trying to do this and that. So let me help him by connecting him with others. And so it doesn't have to be like this story where it's always like a down and out person. It's just about understanding that help shouldn't always come with a price tag, and just understanding that, again, even outside of being a surgical tech or, being a doctor, doing this and doing that, we all have different gifts that, again, we could share with others. And so the goal is to continue to share those gifts.
Beautifully said.
Brian,
Thank you.
that was fantastic. As we've said when we've been talking on the phone, I could talk to you all day, Brian. I could listen to
Yes,
stories. We could go on, but unfortunately, we don't have that kind of time.
I
We need to wrap
understand.
up now, but we want to thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you to our audience for joining us today. And just so you know, okay, so we record these and then we air it about a week later. And I'm saying this to our audience. It's International Happiness Day today, the day that we're recording this. This is March 20th. It'll be released a week from today. But just so you know, Brian's smile brought happiness to both Elia and I as soon as he got on the screen. He's just that kind of guy. He's got a beautiful smile and a beautiful heart. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you. And it's I feel the exact same way. I've been smiling the whole time, and I really appreciate you guys. And like I said, I look forward to more.
Thank you. More to come for sure. Thank you, Brian.
Hello, I'm Randy McNeely, co-host of the Kindness Factor podcast and co-creator of the Kindness Factor Human Interest series. Thank you so much for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate you. You know, kindness has totally transformed our lives, and we are totally dedicated to paying it forward by raising a voice for kindness. Why? Because kindness is love in action, and it's love that touches hearts, changes lives, and heals the world. If that resonates with you, we invite you to join us in our efforts to pay it forward. Here's how you can do that. First, subscribe to the Kindness Factor podcast at the link listed below. You can pay up to $10 per month. Your support will enable us to continue to deliver great content and to take our message to a much broader audience. Second, think of 5 people that you think our efforts will resonate with and take the time to email them and invite them to listen to the podcast, and if it resonates with them, to do the same thing that we're asking of you. Finally, take the time to subscribe, to like, and to subscribe to all of our social media channels listed below. Remember, with kindness, everybody wins. Thank you so much for your support.